There is a very common rumor floating around right now everywhere saying that international healthcare professionals have no job options available in the UK and that the UK is not hiring internationally trained healthcare professionals. And today's video is going to debunk this because today I'm going to be sharing live vacancies in 5 top fields as allied healthcare professionals that you can land a role in the next 1 to 2 months. If any of this is of interest to you, before we move ahead, I want to introduce myself really quickly. My name is Nikita and I make videos about living in the UK as a healthcare professional, landing those jobs and getting your dream life as a healthcare professional in the UK. And I've also started speaking about what are the finances and financial troubles that immigrants might face when they move to the UK from another country. And if any of this is of interest to you, do not forget to drop me a subscribe on YouTube, but also follow me on Instagram. My handle is Physiotherapy in UK. So let's get into the details of today's video. I think one of the biggest things that you've got to think about when you're saying that there are no jobs for healthcare professionals is one of the YouTubers or Instagram people out there put out a video saying that obviously there are no jobs available, and this is because on most of the NHS jobs they are not saying sponsorship is available. Now again, let me just remind you guys, this is from a couple of years ago when I was applying for jobs in the UK. That was just during COVID and just after. A lot of jobs did not explicitly say that they are offering sponsorship. And the reason why I'm throwing this out there is because even right now in today's job market, there aren't a lot of jobs explicitly saying that they are going to offer you sponsorship. However, if you are applying for the right jobs with the right experience, then you've got to understand that sponsorship is always available for the right candidate. Most NHS trusts are happy to sponsor people as far as they know that these internationally trained healthcare professionals are going to meet the requirement and they are going to do the job for them. So that being said, I would just discourage somebody from not applying for a job simply because they have been, saying that there are no sponsorship available for this role because it's not explicitly said or there isn't a disclaimer around that job. That being said though, if you are interested in knowing exactly what kind of jobs you need to be applying for, feel free to book a one-to-one session with me or check out my entire playlist about this topic on my YouTube channel and subscribe to me. Now let's get into the live vacancies right away. So we are right on my laptop screen, and this is where I'm going to show you all of the vacancies that I'm going to talk about. Now, if you do not know about me and all of the jobs that I share, I always find them on Track Jobs website. And when you go on Track Jobs website, you get the option to select healthjobsuk.com. This is one of the best search places for you to find a sponsored role in the NHS because all of the NHS jobs can be found on this website. Now, again, as a bit of a disclaimer, I will be talking about the 5 most common jobs all of you are searching in terms of profession. But again, you've got to remember that this is mainly for England, Wales, mostly. And if you are looking for jobs in Northern Ireland or Scotland, you've got to make sure that you apply on their job website, which might be NHS Scotland or the Northern Ireland equivalent. So let's get into the first type of job or the first profession that we're going to be discussing about, and this is physiotherapist, because obviously, as most of you all know, I am a physiotherapist. Now again, I am going to be sharing band 5 level jobs right now in the market, but again, if you are confused about what sort of jobs are relevant to you, which band you should be applying for, make sure to check out this video, which has a lot of information about this topic and also gives you a little bit more understanding about what you should be applying for to make sure that you're applying for the right level of job for yourself. So let's get into it. The first job that we're going to be talking about is a band 5 level job, and this is in North Cumbria Integrated Care. Now, again, what you've got to make sure always is that it's a permanent role and it is a full-time position. A full-time position is anywhere between 37.5 hours a week to 40 hours a week, because these roles are the roles that offer you sponsorship usually. Again, as you can see that there might be some work in the evenings and work on weekends because this is a respiratory on-call role. And again, what you've got to remember is the site is West Cumberland Hospital. The salary is a general salary for all band 5s, which is 31,000 to 37,000. And again, the closing date for this is the most important, and this is closing somewhere in the end of August, that is the 28th of August. So make sure if you are interested in this role, you are applying for it before the 28th of August. The next position that we're going to be talking about is with University Hospitals Plymouth. Now, this is again a band 5 position, and as you can see, this is a permanent role Monday to Fridays, but you might have to do some weekends and late shifts or on-call shift. What's important to remember is that this is at the Derryford Hospital in Plymouth. And again, the salary is your regular band 5 salary, which is 31,000 to 37,000. And the most important thing again to remember is the closing date, which is 25 August 2025. Now, again, I've got to let you remember over here that if you are trying to find any of these jobs, I've left the link for them in the description below, so feel free to check them out. The next one we're going to be talking about is a pediatric physiotherapy role, and this is with Calderdale and Huddersfield NHS Foundation Trust. Again, you've got to remember that this is a band 6 position. So, again, if you are a little bit more experienced with pediatric physiotherapy, you can go ahead and make applications to this role. Again, it is a full-time position, but they are also accepting part-time applications. But what you've got to remember is that there are positions which have full-time level opportunity so that they can give you the sponsorship that you need. In terms of site, it is with the Children's Therapy Service. Probably they might be able to tell you a bit more about which is the base location for yourself. So make sure that you can reach out to them using, the contact details mentioned in the job, which I can show you later if you are interested. They have obviously given the closing date, which is the 26th of August, and the interview date as well, which is the 8th of September 2025. Moving on, another pediatric physiotherapy role, and this is with the Northern Care Alliance NHS Foundation Trust. For those of you who do not know about the Northern Care Alliance, this is usually in the areas of Manchester and Salford. Now, as you can see over here, this is a band 5 position and it is a full-time position, as you can see. In terms of recruitment, again, they have given you the address of where their team is. So, again, worth looking it out. And like I said, this is in the area of Salford, which is just right out of Manchester. The salary is again standard band 5 salary, and the closing date for it is coming really close. So, end of this week, which is the 19th of August 2025. Now, moving on to one of the last roles from a physiotherapist point of view is the band 5 position with Sirona Care and Health. Now, this is again a full time position, which is for 37.5 hours a week. What you've got to remember though is that this is again a children's pediatric physiotherapy role, and this is again for 31,000 to 37,000. This is in the town of Bristol. So, again, for those of you who do not know, Bristol is right in the southwest of Wales. And the closing date for this is the end of the month, which is 28th of August 2025. So now that we've covered a lot of physiotherapy roles, let's go to the next one, which is clinical psychologist. Now, again, as you can see, I've opened up a few job roles available over here. So the first one we're going to be talking about is something in Cardiff. This is a band 5 position, again, permanent, full time. And as you can see, there might be certain shift days as well. So just keep that in your mind if you are applying for jobs, that there might be certain shifts that you might need to cover. Now, this is in a town which I don't think I'm pronouncing right, but Tony Pandy. The salary is again a box standard band 5 salary, as you can see, and the closing date for this is the 27th of August 2025. Again, make sure that this is a mental health well-being practitioner role within Cardiff. Now, moving on to some of the other roles out here. As you can see, this is now with the University Hospitals of Coventry and Warwickshire, so sort of near Birmingham way. This is again a band 5 salary, so it's sort of going to be a band 5 role, which is permanent position and is at 37.5 hours full-time role. What you've got to remember is that this is going to be most likely at the hospital site and it is in the town of Coventry. Also, you've got to make sure that if you are interested in making an application as a clinical psychologist for this role, you've got to do it before the 20th of August 2025. And remember that this is an assistant psychologist in oncology and hematology. Now, again, for those of you all who do not know a lot about the jobs in the NHS, just make sure that when you are applying for band 5 positions, you at least have your HCPC registration to be considered a serious applicant. Now, moving forward, this is a senior assistant psychologist position, and this is in Liverpool with Liverpool University Hospital NHS Trust. This is again a band 5 position, permanent, full-time role, and as you can see, the site is Aintree Hospital. What you've got to make sure though is that the application deadline for this is tomorrow. So make sure you're putting your applications in if you are interested in this role because it is the 15th of August 2025. And finally, coming down to one of the last roles related to psychologists. This is in a really popular hospital, which is UCL NHS Foundation Trust. This is again a band 5 role, so it's an assistant psychologist role, and you will obviously be based in London. The salary for this is 37,000 to 45,000, but you've got to remember that this is including the high cost area supplementation, which is an added bonus in regards to your baseline salary. So obviously the salary for this looks much higher because you will be living in London and the cost for it is obviously higher. The closing date for this is in 5 days' time. So that is on the 20th of August 2025. Now, moving on to some of the next roles that we want to talk about, and that is the radiographers. So any of the diagnostic or therapeutic radiographers, these roles are open to you right now. So the first one we want to talk about is a mammographer position in Peterborough. So this is with Northwest Anglia NHS Foundation Trust. This can be a band 5 or a band 6 position. So again, worth knowing, if you are somebody with a little bit more experience, you could still apply for it and get selected for the band 6 role. It is a permanent full-time position, and what you've got to remember is that it is in Peterborough. The closing date for this is the 20th of August 2025. So make sure to get your applications in, any mammographers or interested radiographers. The next one is a radiographer band 5 position at Kettering General Hospital NHS Trust. This is again a 37.5-hour position, so a full-time position where you are expected to do certain shifts. Again, worth remembering is that you will be in the town of Kettering if you are interested in applying for this position, and the closing date for it is the 26th of August 2025. Now, moving on to some of the other roles available, which is in Buckinghamshire NHS Foundation Trust. Now, this is again a band 5 radiographer role. What you've got to remember is this is in the town of Aylesbury, which is right on the outskirts of London. So again, a really good place to be if you are somebody who wants to live a commuter life into London. The salary for this is again your standard band 5 salary, 31,000 to 37,000, and the closing date for this is the 28th of August 2025. Now, moving on to one of the last roles that we have, which is a band 5 shift radiographer role. This is in Blackpool Teaching Hospital. Again, a full-time permanent position, and you will be in the town of Blackpool, which I've heard is lovely. The closing date for this is another few days, so make sure you've got your applications in because it is the 21st of August 2025. Now, moving on to the next kind of roles, which is dietitians, because again, I know there are many dietitians watching this video. And in terms of dietitians, the first one we're going to talk about is St. George University Hospitals. This is a band 5 dietitians role, which is a permanent full-time position. This is at St. George University Hospital NHS Trust, and the site was obviously at St. George's Hospital, which is sort of in the south of London. So again, as you can see, the salary is slightly higher, which is 37,000 to 45,000. Got to remember that this is including the high cost area supplementation. And the closing date for this is the 22nd of August 2025. So make sure those applications are put in before that date. The next one is in Liverpool University Hospitals NHS Trust. This is again a permanent full-time band 5 position, and this is going to be at the Royal Liverpool Hospital. So the job is primarily going to be based there in the town of Liverpool. The salary is your standard band 5 salary, and the closing date for this is towards the end of the month, which is 27th of August 2025. Now, the next one we're going to be talking about is North Cumbria Integrated Care NHS Trust Foundation. This is a specialist dietitian's role related mainly to renal specialization. And this is again a permanent full-time position that will be present in the Cumberland Infirmary in the town of Carlisle. Again, the closing date for this is towards the end of the month, but make sure you're getting your applications in well before the closing date if you can. The last one that I want to talk about is a rotational dietitian's role, and again, this is in Wales. What is helpful to know is that this is at Wrexham Mallow Hospital in the town of Wrexham. It is again a permanent full-time position, and the closing date for this is the 25th of August 2025. Now, moving on to one of the last roles that we have out here, and dietitians out there. So one of the first roles we're going to be talking about is the University Hospital Sussex role. Now, this is for a band 5 dietitian, a band 5 occupational therapist, which is a permanent full-time position. Again, you've got to remember this is a rotational occupational therapy position, so you might be expected to go into different settings or specializations as an occupational therapist. And this is in the lovely town of Brighton. The closing date for this is again towards the end of the month, so make sure you are putting in your applications before then. The next one we have is another occupational therapist role, and this is with Liverpool University Hospitals NHS Trust. This is a Band 5 permanent position that is available, and this is again going to be in the town of Liverpool. And the closing date for this is towards the end of the month, which is the 27th of August 2025. The last one we have is a little bit of a different role for an occupational therapist, but it is a liaison and diversion practitioner. And this is with Lancaster and South Cumbria. Again, you can be an occupational therapist for this role. So, again, that's the reason why they've put it down here. What you've got to remember though is that it's a permanent full time position and it is in the town of Cumbria. Now, again, the closing date for this is the 27th of August 2025. So make sure you put your applications in before then. Now, I hope you found this useful, guys. And if you did, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. But also, let me know any questions that you might have in the comments below, and I will try to get back to them. Take care.